Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Tosin Ogunbero. I'm a researcher. I've been on this road since 2019 actively. I did my first ever research in 2016, but um, it was my own personal research. But I started doing it professionally from 2016 till up to date. So across the line, I've been able to garner a lot of experiences, you know, shortcomings on the way. So today, I'm going to be walking you through some of the things I've learned. Of course, there's no way I can teach you everything I know in a short session. So today, my goal, what I have in mind to achieve today is to teach you the orientation of research. That's what I intend to do in the next 3 days. There are certain things that is a non-negotiable for every research to be up to par, to be up to standard. So there are certain components that must be in it. So that is what I'm going to be achieving with everybody in these next 3 days. So I want you to walk me through the journey. I'm going to be sharing my screen right away. I'm going to be walking you through my slide. Okay, so today, our agenda, I'm going to be walking you through introduction to research, the component of research, generating content for your work, construct and variables. Then we'll continue tomorrow. So I don't have introduction of research on my slide, but I'm just going to be telling you. Research is categorized as an academic writing. The major difference between academic writing and non-academic writing is it has a specific way it ought to look like. It has its own specific components, you know. And one major thing that differentiates academic writing from non-academic writing is references. You know, if you don't reference your work, it's categorized as academic misconduct, which they call plagiarism. So also within these 3 days, I'm going to be touching on references. So, but majorly, academic writing, especially dissertation, academic writing is basically categorized into two. We have dissertation and we have assessment. So these 3 days, I'm not going to be touching dissertation. I'm not going to be touching assessment at all. I'm just going to be focusing on dissertation. So dissertation, the main thing that differentiates dissertation from assessment is dissertation is more theoretically inclined, while assessment is more practically inclined. That means when they give you an assessment to write, it has practical implications, you get. But dissertation is more of testing your theoretical intelligence, theoretical wit. So by the end of these 3 days, I'm sure I should be able to have walked you through a certain road that's, if you are interested on this journey, you can pick yourself up from there and proceed. So I'm going to be going straight into components of research. Okay, what is research writing? I think I just said what research writing is different from other forms of content creation. it's academically inclined, it has references, it has certain components, which I'm going to be walking you through. So across the years, because this will be my 4th year of doing research orientation consecutively, and across the years, I've been able to teach people that research writing has 2 components, which is structure and content. And it might be to explain to people the difference between structure and content and the importance between the 2. Structure is more like what skeleton is to your body. Content is what flesh is to your body. You know, without skeleton on your body, on your human body, your flesh will fall apart. So it is your bone, it is your skeleton that is holding your body together. So that's what structure is to an academic writing. And then on the other hand, we have content. So let's look at what structure is. Like I said, structure is more like skeleton of a work, while content is like a flesh. So your structure is expressed through your outline, your chapterization, your subheadings, the arrangement of your work. And said here, most of the time, structure is not something you have to wrap your head about. Every school provides the acceptable structure they have for your work. Over the years, I've done dissertation that have 5 chapters. I've done dissertation that have 6 chapters. I've done dissertation that have 7 chapters. And each of the chapters have its own specific component that they are looking for. It has its own specific word count that they are looking for. So, like I used to say, when an examiner is looking at your work, the first thing they look at is the structure of your work. At the beginning, nobody really, at the beginning, they don't pay attention to your content. The first thing that catches the eye is the structure of your work. They want to see how neatly arranged your work is. They want to see if your work is in accordance with the structure provided by your school. And if it's not in line, it's a major minus on its own, major one. So when you are working, the first thing you pay attention to is your structure. You make sure you perfect your structure. Where you start from is actually from your outline. So anytime I want to work, the first thing I perfect is my outline. I work on my outline meticulously to ensure that, okay, so let's go ahead. Like I said, yeah, each chapter has its own structure. Chapter 1 has its own structure. Chapter 2 has its own structure, and we are going to be looking at it. Your structure is so important that it can undermine the quality of your work. No matter how brilliant your content is, once your structure is wobbled, that it can discredit the efforts you put into your structure, into your content. So sorry about that. So it is your structure that enhances readability. It is what enhances the appeal of your work. For instance, when clients reach out to me to check out their work, maybe somebody else wrote the work and they want me to go through it to be sure before they submit. The first thing I look, the first way I know if that person know what they are doing or not is the structure of the work. Once the structure of the work is somehow, just feel like, no, the work is, you get what I'm saying? So part of your structure is the fonts you use, your font style, your font size is part of the structure. Academic writing, there are specific structure that is allowed. Time New Roman is part of it. Area is part of it. There's one other one, Calibri. So majorly is Time New Roman, area, and Calibri. Anything other than that, they don't normally, is not normally acceptable. And the font size is most of the time 12. We get the headings of the chapters, it can be font, it can be size 14, while the content is size 12. So those are the structures. They are very, very important. So I pay attention to it. Very, very important. Then when those things are in place, in fact, there are marks allocated to structure on its own. So when those things are now in place, then they can now, when your structure is wobbled, it can create a mental barrier in the mind of an examiner. So sometimes when I'm looking at a work, I'm not even gingered to read it because the structure is putting me off. So this is very, 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 very important that you pay attention to your structure. So said example of the structure of your chapter 1 is background to the study, statement of the problem, research, aim and objective, research question, significance of the study, scope of the study. So depending on the school, this might change, but majorly background to the study, it can either be background to the study or they call it introduction. Statement of the problem is always there. Aim and objective is always there. Research question is always there. They can call it significance of the study or justification of the study. Scope of the study too is important. In some instance, they can tell you to put structure. In some instance, there might be definition of terms, the definition of key terms. But these ones, they are more like they are consistent no matter what the school is. So let's go ahead. So let's talk about the content. So your content talks about, like I said, your content signifies the flesh of your work, while your structure signifies the skeleton of your work. So part of your content, we're talking about the coherence of your work, the readability of your work, the articulation of your work, the flow. That is what your content is talking about, the justification of your work. Your content shows us the researchability of your work. Your content shows us the work you have put into your work. It is your content that shows us whether you're a lazy researcher or you're a diligent researcher. Your content, references is part of your content too. There are some examiner, the first thing they look at is the number of your references. The number of your references shows them whether you've put in the work or not, and your ability to be coherent in your presentation. That talks about your content. The relevance of the content you put forward, that talks about your content. So if your structure is in place and your content is in place, nothing can stop your work. So that we don't just, so that it's not just theoretical. So if you ask me, so how do you source for content? Because we are dealing with academic writing. Like academic writing is not just inspirational, so to speak. Like when I used to explain to people, research means when you look at the word research, it has RE, then search. Everywhere you see RE, it means the meaning of that RE as a prefix to any word, it means again. For instance, when we mention something like repeat means say it again. When you say something like replenish means replenish it again. When we say something like restore, that means put it back. Redeem, that means you are buying something back. the same thing as research. You are searching something again. You get, that means you are not the most likely, you're not the one that puts what you are searching there. That it is already there. It is your job to go and search it. And in your bidding searching it, there are resources and materials that will help you and aid you along the way. You get what I'm saying? So those resources and materials, it is your job to reference those resources and materials. So let's say we are writing a 5,000 word count research, and you only have 5 references. You'll be penalized. You are a thief. So you are saying the bulk of your work, the bulk of your word count, it came from your brain. In academic writing, it is not appreciated. So that is why in your bid for generating content, you are not generating content from pure inspiration. You are not generating content from your brain. You are generating content from existing literature. You understand? You are generating content from existing literature. So, like I said here, you have to source for journals that is related to your topic. You can download them if you like. You can read them online if you like. But you have to source for existing journals, existing literatures that is that's related to the topic you are dealing, the topic you are researching on. So you download them, you read, then the third step is you read. In my bid of preparing this slide, I taught some people this slide, and I was explaining that you want to generate content, you have to read. You can read, for a start, just developing your background to the study alone, you can read 20 journals. Because, and what I'm teaching here, I'm teaching generic content generation. Like I'm teaching organic content generation, not, these days people use it to generate content. If you want to generate content organically, yeah, it is work and it's a process. First of all, the first step is you have to read. You take your time, you read as extensively as you can. Because when you get to writing phase, what you are reading will come back to you. You get. You first of all store into yourself the work of other people. One thing about research, not just academic research, research everywhere, it's not purely your work. It's not purely your doing. Your work is just putting different pieces together to form a new piece. You understand? Whether it's, whether you are researching a groundbreaking technology, a groundbreaking medicine. There was a time I was watching a documentary about Einstein on his relativity theory. E equals to MC squared. E equals to MC squared. And I'm not even started writing that time, but something was impressed on me. And what was impressed on me was nobody, everybody, we have to stand on existing protocols, so to speak. Everybody, every one of us, we have to lean on the work of people that has come before us. Nobody find anything purely on their own, nobody. So when I was looking at that, and this documentary I'm talking about, I've watched it maybe, I think it should be more than 10 years ago now. But one thing I was able to bring out of that documentary is that nobody find anything on their own. We have to lean on the effort of people that has come ahead of us. And it's the same thing with research. When before Albert Einstein was able to formulate that formula, E equals to MC squared, he had to lean on the work of some people like people like Maxwell, that great mathematician. He has to lean on the work of Maxwell. He has to lean on the work of Michael Faraday. No, you have to lean on the work of so many other people. It's the same thing with research. You cannot just say you want to write research, you just sit down on your system and one spirit will just come and you just start writing. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to actually read. You have to actually read. And you have to source for journals and all that. So the example we are using today to bring what I'm saying home is the impact of generative AI on digital marketing productivity. So in order to bring, so yeah, here I was talking about in generating content, I was talking about the law of purchase. So the law of purchase visually is talking about, let's say somebody have an accident and they break their leg. And in the process of healing their leg, and they want to start exercising that leg to be able to walk again, they have to use a walking aid. As a researcher, your own working aid is existing literature, existing work. So any work you want to do, let's say you want to develop your background in the study, you download journals, you look at it, you look at maybe 5 different journals or 10 different journals. You look at it, how did they structure their journal? What was in their first paragraph? What was in their second paragraph? What was in their third paragraph? What was in their last paragraph? You look at it. You are not doing copy now. You are not doing copy and paste, but you are more like mirroring what they did in order for you to lean on it to write your own. As you, in fact, even savvy researchers still do it. There are notable journals that you can download and look at it. What do they write in their first paragraph? What did they write in their second paragraph? You look at it. You can stay with it. And then you start giving you an idea on how to write your own. So that is my law of purchase. You use a working aid in order for your leg to be strong enough to stand on its own. So the working aid you use in research is existing literatures. All right, let's go ahead. So I'm going to, so you cannot generate content effectively if I don't talk about construct and variables. You cannot generate content effectively if I don't talk about construct and variables. Construct and variables, they are the fabric of your work. Okay. Construct and variables, they are the fabric. Sorry, we can still hear me. Let me see. If you can still hear me, let me see your hand. Also, God. If you can still hear me, let me see your hand, please. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So you cannot generate content effectively if I don't talk about constructs and variables. No, constructs and variables, they are the fabric of your work. So, and I'm going to break it down. Constructs, like I said here, construct comes from the topic. Like construct is the subset of your topic. Every construct comes from your topic. And variables they come from your construct. So let me explain. For instance, I have to jump my slide. I'll come back so that it can make sense to you. For instance, the topic we are using as example is the impact of generative AI on digital marketing, the completion of that topic on digital marketing productivity. So just stay with me. So we have dependent constructs and independent constructs. Just like they imply, dependent, independent. It means your dependent is depending on your independent. The independent is a standalone construct, you know. The dependent is leaning on the independent in order for it to have its outcome. You get dependent variables are more like what they call outcome variables, outcome constructs. So in this topic now, we have the impact of generative AI on digital marketing. So generative, you can see from the top, from the way the topic was constructed, the impact of generative AI on digital marketing. You can see on, that means it is generative AI that is impressing and impacting and influencing digital marketing. So by implication, digital marketing is our dependent variable. Generative AI is our construct. Sorry, I said construct comes from your topic. So digital marketing is our dependent construct, while generative AI is our independent construct. Olumide, you are raising your hand. Do you want to ask me a question? All right, let's continue. Don't worry. If you have any question, you ask me when I'm done. Impact of generative AI. Okay, so generative AI is our independent construct. Digital marketing is our dependent construct. So in order for us to move forward, we will derive our variables from these two constructs. You get? We will derive our variable from these two constructs. So the essence of we having variables and constructs is so that you can break down your objective into something to a focused direction. When we say the impact of generative AI on digital marketing is too broad, and in my past trainings, I used to teach on how to, one of the first things I used to talk about is how to choose a researchable topic, but I'm not going to talk about it here. You know, but if you want to choosing a researchable topic, constant variables is also part of the configuration. Constant and variable is the thing you have to put into consideration. So when you are choosing researchable topic, you choose something that is not too broad, but after you choose it, you have to still narrow it down further through your construct and variables, and it will reflect on your objective. So if you want to break down generative AI to variables, generative AI, what is generative AI? Generative AI is basically popular, common AI tools that people use to generate content. ChatGPT is one of it. So ChatGPT is one of our variables. And before I go forward, your independent variable, your independent construct, you can decide to use just one variable for your independent variable. Why you have many dependent variables, and you can decide to have two. But it's not always advisable that your independent variables is too much, because it will reflect on your literature review, to reflect on your research instruments and all that, to reflect on so many things. But we are going to get there. So in determining our variable for generative AI, ChatGPT is part of it. Meta AI is part of it. Chatbots, it's part of it. And life is easy now. If you don't know, you can hack. You can hack Google, and you can hack your AI to break it down for you to construct and variables. So, but digital marketing, our variables that we can use for our digital marketing, it involves content generation. You know, it involves, sorry, it's somewhere. It involves content creation speed, content personalization, you know, engagement rates. So those are our variables, and our variables will reflect in our objective. We started from constructs, then we broke it down further to variables. And I told you the essence of doing this is to make your work to have a focus, such that if somebody else decides to choose your same topic to research on it, you might not arrive at the same variables. You get? And your variables, your choice of variables also determines the purpose you have in mind that you want to achieve with your work. Your choice of variables can reflect the research problem that you have identified. All right. So in this case, because I've done my homework, I've determined my construct and variables before this class. So I've been able to form two objectives for my construct and variables. So I said one of the objectives for this topic would be to examine the efficiency of AI on digital marketing productivity. Another one could be the effect of AI generated content. No. Sorry. Okay, because I made a correction. Okay, maybe not on this line. So what I was able to correct it to is that, sorry, I'm going to correct this slide later. So one of our objectives, just listen, the objective on your screen is not what I want to use. So because I've been able to identify my independent variable as ChatGPT, and I can decide to use two variables for my independent variable, and I can decide to use one. But in my case, in order not to complicate things too much, I want to stick with one, because when I choose one, it is easy for me to go deep. If you choose two, the only purpose for choosing two is just to do some comparative analysis on your two, and then depending on your topic. But in this case, I want to use one. So I'm using ChatGPT. So I'm going to be saying, to examine the efficiency of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my independent variable. Don't forget that. To examine the efficiency of ChatGPT on, so this digital marketing now, I'm going to substitute it to one of my dependent variables. Don't be confused, please. Don't be. Which is one of my dependent variables is content creation speed. So my objective, if you have your notes, just write it down, not to make you feel confused. So it should not be something like to examine the efficiency of ChatGPT on content creation speed. That's one of our objectives. Our second objective could be to determine the effect of ChatGPT on content personalization. You know, that's another dependent variable that we are using. So we've identified two dependent variables, which is content creation speed and content personalization. That's two. For the purpose of this class, we are limiting it to two. No, normally your objective should not be less than 3 and should not be more than 5. So the number of the objective you use is dependent on, number one, the word count of your entire work. The word count of your entire work. That's number one. You should put that into consideration. For instance, if your entire word count is 8,000 for your chapter 1 to 5, you know, depending on the depth, also the depth of your analysis and the type of your analysis. For instance, if you are using mixed method and your word count is 8,000, you should not use more than 3,000. You should not use more than 3 objectives. Because if you use, let's say you use 5, at the end of the day, you have more word count than necessary. Then you will now be looking for something to cut down. You know, that's you stressing yourself. So, but from the beginning, you can determine a lot of things. You understand? So, but then before we leave objective, there are principles of creating or develop. Yeah, there are principles of developing objective. You want to develop objective. The number one principle is, you know, identify your variables. Number two is there's a way you phrase objective. You don't phrase it anyhow. You have to phrase it. And then listen to me carefully. Depending on the type of, I'm going to be teaching methodology on Saturday. Very, very important. So depending on the methodology you are using, it's going to also determine the phrase you are going to be using. For instance, if you are using qualitative analysis, which is interview and all that, or you are using systematic review, you use more to explore, something like that. But if you are using quantitative, you use something like to analyze, to examine, to determine, to evaluate. But then generally, you use phrases like to examine, to analyze, to explore, to determine, to evaluate. That's what you start your objective with. You don't start it anyhow, you know. So that is it about research objective. I didn't talk about research questions there, but this thing is, the breakdown is your construct comes from your topic, your variable comes from your construct, your objective comes from your variables, and then your research question comes from your objective. Your research question cannot be different from your research objective. The only thing that is different is the way you phrase it. You get. For instance, let's go back to our objective here. Okay, the right objective is here. Let's go back to our objective here. To examine the efficiency of ChatGPT on content creation speed. Your research question for this research objective will now be, what is the efficiency of ChatGPT on content creation speed? So just like research objective has a starting phrase, research question so has a starting phrase, just like what is, to what extent, is majorly what question, and yeah, to what extent, to what degree? I'm thinking we don't normally use, probably occasionally we use how questions, but majority of the time we use what questions. To what extent? What is? Because what and how is different from each other. So what is, you are talking, what is signifying a certain thing, how is descriptive. So majorly we ask what questions, not how questions, because what is definitive. You can quantify what, how is descriptive. All right. Okay. So we've been able to, yeah, we've been able to touch construct and variables. I think to a large extent, we've been able to we've been able to cover our objective for this night. So at this point, if you have any question, you can ask me so that I don't take too much of your time. So if you have any question, you can ask me. All right. All right. Michael, you have a question. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the session. Really appreciate, sir. Okay, my question is that you made mention of certain words we use for the kind of analysis. Is the analysis you mentioned? Like, okay, if it is going to be quantitative or qualitative, and then you also made mention of systematic. Okay, you gave an instance of if you are using quantitative, that is going to be to analyze, to evaluate, to determine. So I really want to get that aspect well. And also for the systematic, I want to get that aspect well, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. What I'm just saying there is you're kind of you're kind of you're kind of sorry, I'm coming. Yeah. Your kind of methodology determines the way you phrase your objective. So if you are using quantitative analysis, if your work is quantitative, we use objectives that are quantitative in nature to determine, you can quantify it, to analyze, you can quantify it, to some extent, you can quantify to examine. But if your analysis is going to be qualitative, which is interview-based or text-based, thematic-based, that means you cannot quantify it. So you use something that is exploratory in nature, like to explore. You can use to examine too. Yeah, because examine is neutral. You can quantify it, you can examine, like look at something deeply. So you can use to examine. The reason I mentioned that part is that you are deliberate in your choice of words, such that if anybody's examining you, they can tell from your choice of words that you know what you are doing. So that is that about that. So we're going to be talking about methodology on Saturday. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about literature review. We're going to be talking about literature review tomorrow. Components of literature review. what ought to be in your literature review. All right, Mr. Opadotu. Jesus, I'm scared. Yeah, you can unmute yourself, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
How you
sir.
doing, sir?
Fine,
How's the
sir.
work going?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for this training. Thanks for this. I'm actually on transit. I wish I could have gotten on so that I'll be able to use the video section. So, but I apologize to, I'm not home yet. So, but I just thought, okay, I need to join the class. So, thanks for what you are listening us to. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to buttress the response to the person that asked the question regarding the structure of either qualitative or quantitative aspect of analysis. And you made mention of something like a systematic review of analysis. Yes. I hope the person that asked the question is hearing me.
Yes, sir.
Michael,
Thank
are
you,
you still
sir.
there? It's buttress
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
me.
I'm here, sir.
Okay. So he actually answered your question, but I just want to add one or two things to it. So when we are talking about a systematic review of analysis, based on the goal of your dissertation or the gap that you want to fill, when it's a systematic kind of analysis, you have a target of the number of literature that you want to review. In such review, all your findings are still strictly based on the number of literature that you've itemized to use. In such analysis, you are not making use of any data anywhere. In fact, you are not conducting any interview. All the objectives that you stated and the goal, the gap you want to fill, are strictly based on the literature that you correct. Let's assume that you said, okay, based on the dissertation you want to do, you want to review like 60 literature. You now group the 60 literature in maybe one from Nigeria, maybe local literature, some like all these abroad, all these foreign papers. Now, your finding from those papers are the one that you are reporting, and they will capture the goal or the objective of your dissertation. Those are the one we call systematic review. So basically, you are reviewing literature strictly. So in those kind of areas, you can look at the impact of COVID-19 in different sectors. So you look at 2, 3 sectors, you review paper in one sector, you review paper in another sector, look at how COVID-19 affects another sector as well. So based on those paper, that's when you provide your response and the solution to any question you raised in the research question. So that is that. Then concerning the qualitative, like the tutor has said, our trainer has said, you structure some questionnaires, you provide some interview to capture those ones, while your quantitative has to do with whether primary data kind of or secondary data. I don't know whether you got what I'm trying to say there.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So,
I really
and
appreciate it.
everything still boils down to what you said regarding the methodology. Your methodology, the choice of method you intend to use, still determine how you structure your research questions and your research objective. So that's why chapter 1 to 3 of every work, every dissertation, every thesis is very, very key. You must have the scope of all the chapter 1 and chapter 3 in mind while trying to work. So thank you so much. And that is that. I don't know. I don't know the plan for this class. Maybe later myself and the tutor will talk. So I have one or two things to say. Thank Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Uh, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that input. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Oni, you are raising your answer.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for the training. For someone like us that has been, let me use the word, away from personal academic research. I mean, I've not done any other research since I did my postgraduate program, so it's a good time to get refreshed from seasoned writers like you. I'm very grateful. I want to ask two questions. Okay, no, I think you already answered the first one about the recording. The slides, is it going to be available? I would like to, even though there are things that I know, but I still definitely like to look through them, and they are quite very beautiful slides. Well done, sir. So I want to know if your slides are going to be available, sir.
All right, sir. We see in camera, sir. All right. Means AY Ayo Lawrence. All right, you can ask your question.
All right, thank you so much for that enlightening session. So the question I wanted to ask is on the research method. How do you know the perfect kind of research method to use, based on your topic? Because while you were talking, it was really bringing a lot of memories to my head during my MSc time. And some people use purely qualitative method during their own research, while some use quantitative, and for some we mixed both, qualitative and quantitative. So how do you know which is actually best?
All right. Your choice of methodology, it depends on what you intend to achieve with your work. For instance, if you use, there are topics that is best to use something exploratory, like quantitative analysis. And some is best to use quantitative, some is, you can mix it up. So depending on time and resources also is also a factor in choosing your choice of methodology. So if you have ample of time to yourself and you have ample of resources to carry out a thorough study, you can use both such that you can triangulate your findings. So then there are some topics that they are best that you just use quantitative, because we use quantitative when your goal is to reach as many people as possible. For instance, you are carrying out a study that you want to reach 1,000 people. Definitely, you have to quantify it. But if your study is not number intensive, but is quality intensive, is perspective intensive, then you use qualitative. That means we can get 10 to 15 quality interview, it will do, you get. So you can use focus group, you can use KI as key informants interview. So it boils down on the goal of your work, your budget, the time you have available to you. So those are the things that majorly determines these are the things that determines your. Sorry, my team they are signaling to me. It's like I'm missing out something. Let me hear them out. All right. Yeah, they said topic 2 is also a determinant. So that's it. But if Mr. Okwadotu wants to buttress what I've said, yeah, we can help out. But Ms. AY, hope you got what hope my answer was satisfactory.
Yes, yes, it was. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So, okay. Mrs. Gladys, all right, you can ask your question. I'm listening. Okay, you can type in case the network is disturbing, you can type out your question because I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Kindly type out your question. It's
Yeah.
like your network is not.
Okay.
Yeah, type out your question first.
It's not stable. Oh, 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 okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we are waiting for her to type out her question. If there's any other, Mr. Paddleton said, right. So thank you, sir. So we are waiting for Ms. Gladys to send a question so that we can wrap up the call. So far, hope this class has been worth it to you. Hope this class has been worth it to you. Tomorrow, we are going to be touching on literature review, component of literature review, component of theoretical review, empirical review. What's the difference between theoretical review and empirical review? What's the difference between conceptual review, empirical review, and theoretical review? What's the difference? What is a research gap? So tomorrow we are going to be addressing that. All right. Thank you, sir. So to the rest of hope it has not been hope it hasn't been a waste of your time. Hope I've been able to deliver according to expectation. Yeah, it's like our network, because I can't see her on the call anymore. It's like our network has so probably we will pen. Okay, she's back. Okay, all right. I can see her question. She said, usually I notice that the independent variable comes first before the dependent variable in such topic. Is it always so? Yes, yes, it's always so. To a large extent, it's always so. Because the independent construct, the dependent construct is actually needs the independent construct for there to be an outcome. So the independent construct is just like a mother. The dependent construct is just like a child looks up to his or her mother to get life, to feed, to get a lot of things. So yeah, it's always come first. Mr. Okwadotu. All right, sir. Kindly unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much for the person that asked the question and the response also. Yeah, perfectly like you said. Independent variable always comes first. There's something we call the model specification. We are formulating a model. You have independent variable, which is a function of other factors that could determine or that could relate to that particular dependent variable. So dependent variable is that you are testing something on something. So if you remember, there is something in economics when they talk about the demand and price. Say quantity demanded equals F of P. So whatever you want to buy, the quantity of goods you want to buy is a function of the price. Look at fuel now, where you used to buy 5 liters before at the rate of maybe 6 something, 7 something. Now that the price is around 1,002, 1,001, it shows that the quantity, the liters you will buy is now a function of the price. So the price there is an independent variable. But the quantity that you are to determine what you want to do is a dependent variable. And on the other side, we now say there may be some other factor that will affect the quantity of the fuel, the liters that you buy. That's why we have some other variable that we call control variables in the model specification. So in solving your research work, when it comes to methodology, in model specification, dependent variable is always first. And it has been like that, and it will continue to be forever, forever, and ever. Whether, irrespective of the software you use to do your analysis, dependent variable always comes first, because it's the one you want to test other things to know how they affect that particular variable, which is your dependent variable. You want to know those ones that stand alone, because price stands on its own. Price varies. It's the quantity that affects you. So the quantity that affects you is the dependent variable. So, the quantity of garri or the cup of rice you are going to buy at the market is a function of price, some other factor that could be your income and some other things like that. So, ever since the existence of research, dependent variable always comes first, and it will continue to be. Okay, what's the second question? My second question is that I see people choose chi-square for analyzing their data without any justification for choosing it. How does research objective determine the method to be adopted for analysis? Okay. Our tutor, do you want to respond to the question as we say one or two things about that?
You can proceed, sir.
Okay, okay.
You can proceed, sir.
Yeah, thank you for. Yes, quite number of people use chi-square. There is always justification. I like the fact that you brought out this issue. People should always provide justification. That's why in chapter one, there's always justification for your study. And if I'm not mistaken, that should be the second to the last subheading in chapter one, or some people it's going to be the last subheading. Where you have some operational definition of terms, that will normally come last. But if there is no operational definition of terms, you have justification for the study or justification of the study. And in that justification of the study, it will be captured how you want to achieve those stated objectives. And in the way you want to achieve this stated objective, there are some things that they are status quo. They are just like that. When you have to test, when you have to run some tests, whether you are using SPSS, you are using eViews, you are using Stata, there are some tests that have to be conducted. They are preliminary tests. They have to be conducted so that you can achieve your stated objectives. So chi-square, in terms of running a regression, when you finish your regression analysis, in terms of when you use SPSS, it is expected that you run a chi-square also to know the impact. There's a way the data will project itself. Maybe during the course of the class, we might have to look at some of the templates, some of the examples of the test. So when you run a chi-square, you see the difference, you see how the variables, especially when you use the primary data work, how some of the questions that you put together to form an objective. When you regress it on the dependent variable, you will see how they affect it, and you see the value for coefficient of individual questions. So that's where you see the mean, you see standard deviation. After that one, you see one that is they have conditional and unconditional. So by that time, when you run search, you'll be able to interpret your result correctly. But it is expected that justification should be stated in chapter 1 for the choice of methodology, one way, how you want to achieve the objective, one way or the other. But chi-square is one of the tests that it is expected to run when you are using a primary SPSS. There's no way you want to run a regression in analysis for SPSS that you not proceed with anything chi-square. You have to, if you're a descriptive, you run a correlation, you still have to present a chi-square to justify the impact or the effect of whatever you are trying to test based on your results. So I believe people should be able to put justification in their work. Yeah, it is expected. And when the justification is not there, it shows the person has not really given us a good grant why the chosen methodology should be approved or should be accepted. So another further addition could be said. But I don't know if I've answered the question actually. Then the second question, how does the search objective determine the method to be adopted for analysis? It is a very simple question. Once you stated your objective, from previous studies, you will have known the nature of methods that they've used to achieve such stated objective. That's why in research, there's nothing new we are doing. All we are doing is just to increase the frontier of knowledge. When you download paper, when you review paper, you had an insight from what someone has done. And there's no sin for you to adopt what somebody has done. So many of the time, when what will be different is the way we want to achieve our objective. Maybe we want to bring in new innovation one way or the other, just to change the techniques, or we want to run more tests than what someone has done in the past, or we want to increase the scope of our study. Maybe somebody did it to one extent, you can expand it by going beyond what the person has done. But in determining our choice of methodology or method to adopt in analyzing our objectives, it is the core of the objective that determines what we tend to choose. And we can know that from previous studies that we've done or what studies have been published online. So if you are used to academic publication very well, or dissertation writing, thesis writing, mere seeing a topic question like a research question like, or a research or topic like this, you have an insight of like, okay, I could structure this work into this manner. Now, literature that you review will help you, give you more insight on how to structure your work and how to structure the objective so that you have your own gap to bring out of it. So, beautifully, it is the methodology or the objective that apparently help us to know the methods to adopt. And these are very straightforward when we are very used to academics writing. The second question, what about research topic that don't really show the relationship between the construct or variable like the example given in the class? Although it can be sometimes like generative AI and data. Yeah. There are some topics that when you see some research topic, it's difficult for you to bring out variables from those topics. You might not really know that, okay, this is variable. The one thing is that there is no researchable topic that doesn't have its own dependent variable or independent variable. In all the topics, look it carefully, the way it's been structured, there is something you want to achieve. Whatever you want to achieve is your dependent variable. And it is difficult to see some topics that will not have something related to 2 or 3 variable or concept. So, to me, I believe the topic will be structured in any manner, but deeper inside of it, the author has something in mind I want to achieve. And whatever the person wants to achieve will guide the person to choose the variable to use. Now, in some situation whereby we don't have a variable to capture what is being stated in the topic, that's why we have a proxy. There are some variables that they are not clearly stated like that in research. You can proxy them. We have some proxy for some variables. Like, let me say, in economics, we have a variable that we call institutional quality. Institutional quality is not clearly stated in any data anyway. But we have some proxies, like 6 proxies that we could use to replace institutional quality, something like governance, governance, we have corruption, we have rule of law, we have political stability. So anywhere you see data on political stability, you see data on rule of law, you see data on corruption, you see data of governance stability or something like that. They are the proxy that could be used in place of institutional quality. So we have it in research like that. That when some data, some variables are not clearly stated from the topic, in research, there are some proxy variable that could be used instead of those particular variables. And those variables they are available, they are there, data are there, so you can easily use it. And if it's a qualitative analysis too, there's a way you can structure your question to tailor towards what you intend to achieve. And that one is very simple. It's even very far better than secondary data. So even though the topic is not showing any kind of relationship between the construct or variable, as it were, but there's still a way that can be used, a proxy variable to be adopted to achieve the same objective. Thank you so much. I don't know whether I make any sense. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Hope the question was well understood. Hope the answers was well understood. So, Mr. Badotun, so I will see you in camera, sir. So we do this again tomorrow. Literature review. We don't want to miss it. Literature review always carry at least 25% to 35% of everyone. So it's very, very important. So tomorrow we are going to be breaking it down. Mr. Badotun, I look forward to having you around tomorrow too. So thank you everybody for joining to the end. I hope you were able to take something. In fact, we have over-delivered this for a free class. So thank you so much for your audience. So we see you tomorrow, the same time. All right.